back, and we're going to be jumping into game number 3, but we decided to spice it up just a little bit. We're going to see if these guys can guess the bans without actually seeing them. That's what we're going to do.
Can I get the flipboard that Goldberg had?
No,
that'd be so good.
That would actually be great.
Yeah.
Actually, that'd be really fun. It's like, he's a top laner. Oh, okay.
I could load up like Loldal down here. We could just hang away.
Can I get a quote? Can I get an emoji?
Who was released in 2010?
Yeah, to get all these different things. But no, we are going to be jumping into picks and bans very, very shortly. We do have a slight issue with our graphics with no lower third, but we will be letting you know the bans once they are in, so there's no going to be delay on those kind of things.
Well,
but
we could have some fun with this and think, well, what do we need to see banned? What would we kind of think about that? Because I'm actually wondering, do we see Wukong banned at this point? I think Wukong's been very, very important to both these junglers.
Zyra?
There's potential of something. What do you think, Ashin?
I was thinking, I was like, that doesn't sound like Zeri, but I want to go straight to Zeri. I was like, why is he looking at him funny?
Like Zyra, I'm like, that's not the other Xayah? Lost in translation.
Yeah, lost in translation. Yeah, we could. I mean, again, like it kind of felt like in game 1, we talked about it, SK Prime found the moment for themselves, were able to snowball from there. Istanbul Wildcats just kind of didn't really get a foot in the game. The second one, Destroy became a raid boss, straight up. No one could deal with him. And the composition that the side of Istanbul Wildcats just kind of created to deal with everything just felt a bit more holistically better.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of different holes in the game plan, right? I think the Kennen has been solved because when you look, it's like, well, what does Destroy like? AP mage top laners. What is good against Kennen? AP mage top laners. So makes things very easy for him. When you look towards things like the Zeri in the bot lane as well, this has been the go-to for Keduii alongside the Kalista that we get banned every single game. That is a big issue now because if that Xayah is just willing to be brought out every single time, you get push and bot, you can't play for dragons, Prime is not an opportunity to actually start roaming and linking up with Lurox in the same way we expect to. So it seems like a lot of the wheels are starting to fall off the house and kind of the champion pools are being exposed a little bit, even in the mid lane. Like that LeBlanc didn't really do much for Febi.
And it felt like there was a lot of comfort there, which was then punished. So I think actually I'm going to completely agree about that Kennen read that you had. I think the Kennen's been solved in not just one, but multiple ways. We saw the Rumble banned away. Destroy was absolutely monstering Kennen's in group stage with the Rumble into the Kennen matchups. That's another thing you've got to ban away in second round if you want that to go through. Other places in the world, of course, we've all got very familiar with the LPL. LPL loves Kennen, and we will first pick that over there. If you have champions like this Ryze or the Kennen, which can punish this though, that can lead to some very difficult questions you have to answer.
Well, we are jumping into picks and bans, but only the picks for the moment because we do not have the bans on screen. But I can let you know what they are. SK Prime on the blue, they decided to ban away the Jace, the Gragas, and the Thresh. And on the side of Istanbul Wildcats on the red, they went with the Vi, the Rakan, and the Wukong.
I did think we were about to zoom in on one of the screens there just so we could get a little bit. You know?
What are you banning? What are you picking?
But yeah, I mean, look, nothing too unfamiliar there. Very, very similar to what we expected the last game. I think, like, probably going to see this continue through, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what those first picks are going to be as we start to roll on through this.
Well, we're actually not going to get any of them, to be perfectly honest. We're just going to see the ban, none of the things just yet. I obviously have a bit of an issue there on the graphics, but I can tell you that they're already in the second place, or the second phase of the ban phase. The Gnar, the Olaf, the J4, and the Renata going to be banned away. SK banned away the Gnar and the Olaf. Istanbul Wildcats banned away the J4 and the Renata.
I can already tell you about the J4 and the Renata. What they're really, really good with is actually Kalista in that bot side. So that's the kind of thing you
know what they're good against? Xayah.
Very true. And then you sound like, huh? Well, that was one of these kind of comfort picks and one of these big picks that we were talking about, saying, hey, maybe this will be a big kind of pocket pick for Keduii.
Yeah, first pick, Ahri, super interesting though. They've kind of gone, hey, look, we need Febi to have control over this, so we're going to take that in the first position to make sure that they can actually secure it. We'll give things like the Wukong over to Elramir once more if he wants to try and go towards that. And I think that's probably where we're going to see a lot of that focus is going to be on jungle, and then the Xayah picked up as well.
See what they want to go for. So looks like I was right with my estimations and everything like that, but we'll see what they kind of want to go for here. I do like the splash art there. It's just Rakan. It's just Rakan. It's like the real carry here going into this one. But yeah, I mean, look, lots to kind of see what see where they want to try and bring these drafts, where they trying to want to go for. I still think in having Bao on something like this, even with so much being kind of thrown onto him, he feels comfortable because having that self-peel means he doesn't have to rely so much on everybody else.
I think it's just a call out against Keduii. It's like, hey, look, we know you like your Zeri. We know you haven't really played any of the affiliates and the Jinx. What are you going to do to answer this? As long as we get our hands on the Xayah, we're going to have push, we're going to have control over the lane, and the Xayah's been doing work in team fights as well. So it has just been a really, really nice call here by the side of Istanbul Wildcats to read the room.
Yeah, and particularly with that Maokai locked in now as well, you've got potential Gragas jungle also being removed from the pool alongside the Vi and the Wukong, starting to dipping down that tier list a bit. You're expecting maybe something like that Lee Sin to come out again and try to hyper snowball through that mid jungle. You do have FEBIVEN on, one of his more comfortable champions. We did talk about saying, hey, that champion pool didn't really look awesome in regards to what we saw in that last game. That LeBlanc looked a little bit toothless. The Ahri, though, we absolutely know he loves to play that.
Yeah, I did think that we'd see the Wukong coming through here in the earlier stages just to be like, cool, we're going to make sure that we can still get... Oh, he's been banned, sorry. But still, I'm surprised to see the Sion rather than a jungler. This has been banned away every single game in the second rotation, and it looks like Gen X has kind of gone, look, can't deal with this Ken in the top side. I don't really have an answer to it. Let's just go back to playing that tank matchup, so even if I do start to fall behind, I'll be fine. And there's that Kalista that slipped through the ban phase.
Yeah, so that'll be why the J4 and the Renata bans came out after that point, because they're really good lane pairings to allow you to really pop off early. And now also with those, the Renata and the J4 being banned, and of course the Rakan too, you start thinking about maybe something like that Nautilus being quite effective, something that can again all in very, very hard, very, very early.
Yeah, I'd imagine we're probably going to see something similar, and even just, again, the point-and-click CC, so effective against something like the Kalista. There's always the opportunity as well to go towards something like the Annie if you really want to, because again, you still have that point-and-click CC. You can do a good bit with the range. You just do have to be kind of careful with not just getting mown down by the Kalista, so I imagine they'll fall back to the Nautilus, as Annie just hasn't really been prioritized much in this draft at all.
And this is a big pivotal moment right now, because it's 1-1 on the scoreline. Everyone has a guaranteed another game that is going to 4 at minimum. You have to make this Kalista sit. You have to make sure that this becomes a perma-ban in the next game. If it doesn't, and it doesn't pop off, you're not getting that same kind of respect again, and that's a big question mark coming in for SK Prime.
And particularly in a best of 5, I think we talked about it in game 1, maybe felt like the Wildcats were testing the waters a little bit, saying, hey, SK have, they've got the side choice in game 1. Let's use this red side draft to see if we can get away with some ego lanes, so we can blow them open and not pick the same kind of front line for the Jinx. Didn't really work for them. Go back to that game 2. After that exploration is complete, they have a much more standard draft for them. And now we're into this game 3. We're starting to flip things up again. Now it's back to even. Now you're not on something like a match point. You can say, okay, what more depth have we got for the remainder of this series?
Yes, Fiora going to be taken here into the Sion. Really, really good matchup for yourself. You can riposte the slam down of the axe very handily. You can even dodge around it. You got so many opportunities to try and play up into this matchup. And again, I think it is kind of Istanbul Wildcats flexing their muscles a little bit. We saw this more pick-oriented composition in the last one. Now we're going to be seeing more of the split push, as Kindred just wants to slowly poke her head up into that. But,
quiet.
But I think it's still super interesting to see, because giving a little bit more control into the jungle matchup and allowing Ahri to come through here is going to be interesting to see for Lurox. We've seen it from him once before. We'll have to see if he can try and win.
I think that's also a great response to the mid jungle put out by the Wildcats too, because Maokai and the Cassiopeia, they're not pushing champions. They're not early skirmishing champions. Yes, someone like a Maokai can respond quite well to an early gank, but now you have the Ahri pushing in mid, and then the Kindred able to potentially get marks, get ahead of the game. That's quite scary, because you look at, the Maokai, the Xayah, and the Cassiopeia, they're not hugely long-range champions. Kindred, if you get ahead, can really exploit that.
Especially now with the Blitzcrank alongside it, if Prime can get out of this lane, not only does he have a very good matchup with the Kalista, being able to go for what was like the old school matchup when initially Kalista was released, the Ballista, because you can hook the champion, send her off with the Kalista ult, and then be in a really good spot because you've just yoinked them so far.
The only enemy you can put into this is Threshcrank.
Exactly. But I think the really interesting one now is going to be a case of, can they use that to also then invade off the pressure they created in the bottom mid and really unlock this Kindred, because it does feel now like a lot of this matchup is going to be defined by how good of an early game can this Kindred have.
I'd like to see now the teams are locked and loaded. We did see the last kind of support ban, or support pick, I should say, kind of going back over to the counter on the red side. But SK, they're back on the blue. A lot more priority given to that Ahri. They want to make sure they give FEBIVEN something that he feels a lot more comfortable on, something he can have an impact in that mid lane. On the other side of this one here, a lot of skating. You're looking at that Cassiopeia, and eventually she will just become a monster.
And actually with the Blitzcrank locked in as well, reminds me of a game which I watched very recently. I tuned into the LJL finals, as I do. I am a big fan of that region. I know, it's crazy. It's almost like I watch it.
This is brand new information.
Damn Liga booze.
Oh my god. don't know what to say after that. But either way, one of the things which Dead Nation focused me when they won their finals did was play around Ahri Blitzcrank. What you do is you dash forward for the Everfrost, which is guaranteed Blitzcrank pull at that point. It does mean that FEBIVEN needs to be an initiator, needs to play on the edge of his seat. But if you can start getting onto these largely immobile carries, something like a Maokai or the Cassiopeia, the Nautilus, very, very at risk to FEBIVEN linking up with Prime.
Wait to see now. It's even Stevens as we come into game number 3. SK Prime back on the blue. Can they make this first pick Ahri work? And a little bit of a slightly disproportionate kind of setup with their jungle and AD carry having 2 basically AD champions. They will melt objectives if they can get ahead, but it's all about how this Kindred's able to move around the map. If they can get those early stacks, if they can become a champion, that's going to be the big key here.
And I think Elramir has been very, very good at, matching a lot of what Lurox has wanted to do. We even saw in game 1 how much control or vision he was trying to get down, so he could spot out how Lurox was moving. That's going to be key again, and already with this early ward here, it looks like SK Prime at least will be spotted on the route at the moment. Not surprised to see Lurox trying to clear down towards this bot side. Feels like, he's going to try and link up with Febi and Prime to make sure he can get in the face of Elramir.
Let's wait to go for it now, and then Destroy moving in here. Ghost gets popped here, and he's already trying to put in some serious work here. Lurox not got the dash because he started with the W. Now Destroy thinking about maybe going for it again. It's going to be difficult for them to really try and kill this man off. And yeah, again, you're against a Sion, there's no threat.
Huge moment from Destroy. We talked about it midway through the draft saying, hey, hang on, isn't this Kindred really good in regards to the mid-jungle 2v2? Cassiopeia, the Maokai, cannot really do much against Ahri and then also the Kindred in a 2v2 sense. What happens if the top lane comes into it? Destroy buying a lot of safety for the rest of his team with that incredible level 1 play. That's going to be very important.
I did think, though, that Lurox would actually move towards Gen X. It did surprise me that he decided to run back towards the tower because it felt like he didn't really then have that support, but a lot of trading bot side. Keduii.
Yeah, he has to flash there because Parus put himself right behind the AD carry. We will see the hook come in now, and this is where the Kalista can really become a problem. The Ignite's ticking, another auto attack is good, and Prime picks up first blood. They're going to try and keep putting in the spears here. He will have another knockup. You flash a little bit too little too late. Another
3,
spear
2.
would have been good, but the Ren's not going to be enough. They will be able to get out Parus, but it's still a great start for this Kalista bot side.
So I actually think Keduii got very lucky there. I think Bao ran out of the bush right as that last auto attack was coming through, because with the martial poise, if you can't spot the person, you don't get the auto attack. But I think because Bao ran out of the bush, that actually ended up hitting, which gave the damage then for Prime to finish off. So this starts off super well. Level 2 gets hit by Bao and Parus. They immediately start to trade back, and Keduii has to blow a bunch of summoner spells. But as the level 2 starts to come in, I actually want, this is where I want to watch. So Keduii gets the auto. So Bao, yeah, I think just barely walks out of the bush. So that last auto attack comes through and sets up them for Prime.
The Ignite gives the vision either way.
Oh, true.
It's really, really sucky at that point. And honestly, balls of steel from Keduii and Prime to say, actually, we're level 1 to level 2. But if we have a really good moment at this point, the Ren manages to time out that aftershock and get the most of that trade.
This is the power of the Kalista. It's why we've been seeing it so often banned against SK Prime. And it's why we said, look, this is a big moment here for the side of Istanbul Wildcats. Can they let this one go if the Kalista gets a bit too ahead? I don't think so. But so far, so good for SK Prime. We'll see Elramir just kind of pushing himself towards this mid lane, seeing if he can maybe catch somebody out. Prime is only level 2, but you only need to be level 1 with a Blitzcrank. One good hook is all you need to really put the fear of God into people.
Loads into game. I'm full build.
Yeah, honestly, man, it just feels like that sometimes. One good hook can change the whole dynamic of everything.
So look, SK Prime starting to move down towards the spot side. You have Prime moving in. You've also got Lurox in position as well. Huge amount of pressure here with Kofte and Elramir trying to match the roam though, and I think that's what they're most scared of here. Ahri going to be trying to follow as well, but Febi will be a little bit late to this one.
And Nose has been spotted on vision as well, so just going to try and indicate that he's coming in, but they give out... Oh, that's a great hook underneath the tower! Elramir does flash away, but they've got enough damage! Yes, they do! Lurox takes up that kill, and that's a mark over to the Kindred as well.
That was a massive mistake from Elramir. He hadn't taken tower aggro initially because the wave was still there, but because he W's to Prime, he ends up taking the damage from the tower, and then has to try and flash away. He takes so much just panicking in the moment.
And also the defensive vision put down by SK Prime, completely in position there to get another mark there for Lurox. Gets his first to the game, importantly so. We talked about how Kindred gets ahead of the game. Very important moment, especially when you get to that level 4 first range increment increase.
I mean, this is exactly what you said. Like, he knows they have vision. and he just doesn't really respect it, and the W in does mean he takes tower aggro.
Yeah, if he had actually just not auto attacked and flashed
just
the wall,
fine.
he would have escaped. Yeah, no real issues. But the fact he actually tried to go for the aggressive play, and I get the idea, right? Obviously, you dropped the aggro with the W, but because he'd never picked up aggro in the first place, it didn't make a difference. So, bit of a mistake there from Elramir. Nice punish from SK, and now 2 quick kills on the board. See if they can make it a third.
I don't know if he wants that fish, as he does hook in the Nautilus. They're looking to try and get a knock up here onto Bao, but Keduii has been ignited here. The feathers are lying on the floor. This is an interesting kind of trade-up right now because, yes, Bao looked like he was winning initially, but you have to respect that Ren damage.
No vision on towards Elramir as well. Means that Keduii can't really stick around. Nobody has summoner spells in the spot lane apart from Keduii and that cleanse, but that's not going to do particularly much if you just get insta-burst. So Lurox now trying to see if he can make it down here. Elramir already there. They want to try and make this play happen.
With very few summoners to play with on this bot side, literally only just that Ghost for the Xayah. Means that the bot lanes themselves have a little less agency. Lurox coming down again, has the Xayah marked. Get a kill and assist there. That's mark 2 of the game.
Febi on the way as well. They really want to make sure that they're able to get here, but I think for Istanbul Wildcats, it was just a case of please, Elramir, come down, let us crash this wave, so we're not in a bad spot.
I think that's actually their comms.
yeah.
Bao took a third shot. They will hook in the Nautilus, but a great little bit of Spider-Man work there because Parus knew exactly how he could go forward, block his AD carry. Bao making a little bit of mistake. Another shot from the tower makes this bot lane of Istanbul Wildcats very close to death, and with Lurox kind of sitting off in the fog of war, don't know if they've spotted him out just yet, but Elramir is kind of sitting around, stopping Febi for going for the roam.
You got Kofte here as well. Febi, where are you going?
He's going to have to use the ult, you would imagine. Yep, just has to use the Spirit Rush there, make sure that you cannot get anything else out of it. And FEBIVEN just kind of moving down towards the spot side. I will say Bao is still kind of in a bad position here. Doesn't have...
He has Ignite.
You know, he does have Ignite, but if Parus gets himself ahead of it, a flash away, the Ignite is ticking. Is it enough? One more!
Oh.
FEBIVEN gets the kill. The roam works.
Oh, he gets the ult blown in bot jungle, and Wildcats think, okay, Ahri doesn't have ult. It's not timed out yet, folks. Has a Dark Seal as well, so he gets 2 stacks on that. FEBIVEN with a slim play, shall we say.
Yeah. Are you all right, Dagda?
There was no secret.
No.
They spotted Febi the entire way down, and Parus and Bao ended up falling to it anyway. I was like, you know, secret agent, except he was just like walking down the street with a microphone saying he worked for MI6.
But does put himself into Nymera's good books, getting that early Dark Seal, gets himself those 2 stacks, as you mentioned, and now we're going to see kind of like the pressure coming out here. It's 3-0 to SK Prime, and this is, again, very similar to game number 1, where they had that momentum, they had that spark.
All I can think of is the name's Biven. FEBIVEN. Anyway, he's going to get himself back out onto the map, and we did talk about how mid-jungle 2v2, very, very snowball potential coming in from SK Prime. You do have yourself that first mark on Lurox, and Wildcats would very much like to stop him getting that much more than that. We do have ourselves an objective trade coming through, so it's going to be the first Herald of the game coming through. Last game, did feel like the Wildcats got some really big plays out of using that Herald. It felt like they could kind of control the map and kind of put SK into a state of fear where they couldn't really make plays without threat of that Herald going down.
I will say as well, Lurox has gotten a little bit unlucky with where the spawns have been on the camps.
Yeah.
You can see it's just sitting there on the top side. This is kind of the moment where you could cross map, actually look for an easy invade off the push, but as we can see, Destroyer is doing a very good job of keeping control over this top side matchup, and it's just making it very difficult for him to get past just the singular mark that he has at the moment. Still though, moving back down towards this bottom side, push coming through, and Keduii with the level 6 available now. We'll have to see how hard this Kalista can try and take over.
Talk me through this right now, because obviously we've seen Keduii get this banned away from him for very obvious reasons, but now that this, you know, Kalista has been given time, has a little bit of extra space, specifically those Berserker Greaves, what do you want to see them kind of, you know, move that around? Because it is still a mid-game to, you know, not so much late-game hyper carry.
The great thing about this, that it fits in quite a lot with what we see from SK Prime anyway. It's a go button. You press the R button, you fling someone forward, or use the Ballista combo. It just gives them, again, more engage. It's not on Lurox this time. That's one thing which they're not going to have. But Keduii picks up the extra engage potential, and that's what we now need to see them use. When they're ahead in the game, SK Prime have been very good at pressing those go buttons and accelerating their lead.
And I think a way to accelerate that lead is trying to play in through this bot side, through the push in mid. Now they lean in for a potential dive, which looks like they're trying to set up here, or just look for the invade instead. And Elramir has read this, going to sit down his bot side, has the level 6 available, so I think once SK Prime notice the Maokai, they're just going to back away.
It's exactly as you say. They recognize there is a tree hovering around, throwing out his children. and making it very difficult for them to go for this. And this is the thing that the Maokai does exceptionally well, especially with something like the Nautilus at level 6, is that you have so much power to dissuade dives. Your CC, your lockdown just makes it so difficult to really push those, you know, kind of hard moves into the bot lane, or even any lane, to be perfectly honest. But still going to see Elramir just kind of keeping himself on this bot side, just making sure there's no funny business to be had just yet.
And you can see the threat. Parus has that ult, doesn't have the flash to go forward, nor does he have a Hex Flash on the Nautilus. We've seen a bit of a move away from that rune sometimes. Still think it's very powerful in hook champions. We can flash out of a bush. Can't do that this time. Elramir doesn't have the W now. Lurox can jump forward.
I was going to say, they can jump forward onto this. And you can see Prime moving forward, knowing that he's got himself a hook should he need it. They're going to drop down the ultimate on top of the Kalista, who flashes away. There's going to be the Ballista combination. You can see the Kofte, though, with this Cassiopeia, gets everyone low, but they get the Maokai down. Now they can start to rearrange these targets. Kofte moving in like fish in a barrel, but you have to make sure you're able to finish people off. There needs to be one or two. Oh, they're getting so much done, though, with these Ren stacks, and now FEBIVEN trying to move in on top of this, but he just cannot bow with the triple kill, and it was just too easy at the end of it all.
It was such a messy fight for SK Prime. The grounding as well coming through prevented Lurox from really repositioning to help out a lot of his team. Really strong stuff from the carries of Istanbul Wildcats, and just very spread out here, right? Lurox, you end up in a position where Elramir can play frontline, tanks a whole bunch of this damage, and then here, see the grounding that comes through from Kofte. Keduii, you need to try and hop, skip, and jump your way around the fight. Not an option. Same when you look towards Lurox, trying to position himself for Febi to keep him alive. And now you're trapped in the back of the pit with nowhere to go.
Oh, that flash.
Particularly when you look at this fight as well, SK Prime, they actually have very good pick combo, but when the fight goes long and you haven't killed the carries, I mean, the DPS trick is obviously going to go the way of particularly that Cassiopeia. The Xayah does great AoE too.
And I think Febi got a little bit unlucky there. I think he was like 1 or 2 seconds where he might have gotten a reset, got the ult charge and gone back out over the wall, but just not quite able to do it, and Keduii not able to hop over the wall as well. So nearly SK Prime gets something, but Istanbul Wildcats now, I was going to say looking good, but even with 3 kills, it's a very slim gold lead still to Keduii.
I think we're still focusing on towards this bot side of the map, though, looking at this, because it just tends to be that way with that Kalista. The last play was obviously going to be on the bot side of the map. Now the question is, at the second time of asking, can Wildcats still pull out a similar fight?
You see Shelly being dropped here into the mid lane. This is kind of honestly a bit of a theme for Istanbul Wildcats. They're never, kind of in position to drop it in a, kind of ideal situation. They're always kind of rushing to drop it. It will get its charge off and will pick up 2 plates, as those 2 plates are very, very low anyway, so it does not matter. But all the gold goes over to the Maokai. None of it goes to any of your solo laners. Not ideal, but you do have first items coming in now for the side of Istanbul Wildcats. Divine Sunwear for Destroy. You have the Rod of Ages stacking up now for Kofte, and because of those 3 kills, you now have got the Kraken Slayer available to bow. So with his flash and his ultimate coming back up very, very shortly, he's primed and ready for this next fight.
And he wants to try and make sure that he can get in here, keep control of a bot without the tank on Genex for these fights. Anyone that Elramir picks is going to be a good one.
And they're looking for it. They're going to see Prime just kind of keep everyone there. They're going to drag back the Nautilus. I don't know if that's the exact target you want, but the silence there as he came down meant that he couldn't pop his ultimate and he needed to get out.
Well, Parus didn't have any sort of hook or anything, so he couldn't proc the Aftershock, and Nautilus isn't actually that tanky in the grand scheme of things in comparison to something like a Braum or even an Azeroth or a Leona. So does almost end up working out there, and now Prime trying to see if he can step up once more, make Bow uncomfortable.
Calling out something importantly from that last play as well, has felt like Kofte has had really good... Oh, that's the ult.
Wow. There's going to be the ultimate from Keduii. They're going to pop in the Kalista ultimate, the Fates call, the flash, but he gets knocked up anyway. The Feathers come back, but it doesn't really get anybody else down. Keduii does pick off Parus, and now they can turn back onto the Maokai and kill him off as well. Good patience from SK Prime. They knew when they were stronger. FEBIVEN looking for a 1v1 against Kofte, trying to see if he can take out the snake as the fox that he is, and just getting a little bit of extra support now. Good grounding means that there's going to be a little bit of a slow movement here from the Blitzcrank. They're trying to just see if they can get one good hook. There's still a petrifying gaze. You don't want to go too far forward onto this, but you got FEBIVEN getting the charm off, and the hook in is fantastic. No assist for Lurox means he doesn't get an assist, but at the end of it all, it's still 4 kills.
That's really annoying for Lurox, but that's the combo we were talking about. You can use the Ahri as a kind of guaranteed hook. You can dash forward, but where does it start? Does it all by himself here. Blows the ult of Bao, who does the reactionary ult. Sadly can't get the feathers in the right position, but that really changes the fight. If those feathers are now down like the middle of this lane, SK Prime can't take this.
It's also just a weird target selection. Parus tried to hook Prime instead of hooking the Kalista that was already locked up, so it just was a bit of a weird call, and Prime obviously able to dodge away thanks to Keduii, and they're turning that around. So We were saying, look, SK Prime, what are the changes you can make? What can you bring back into game number 3? Well, very strong bot lane. Febi back onto the Ahri, and Febi has looked so incredibly strong on this pick in the way that he can facilitate Lurox, in the way he can facilitate side lanes, and now with Dragon up and available, SK, they own the space and they own the river.
It's actually a very interesting kind of like mirroring of SK Prime's kind of jungle mid support compared to the Wildcats, because, well, okay.
Well,
I'm going to continue my story time, because
it.
what happens here is that FEBIVEN is kind of the go button, so Prime and Lurox can kind of land that kind of finishing blow afterwards, whereas on the other side, it feels like Parus and Elramir trying to do the same thing for Kofte. It's kind of the two sides of the same coin. Will that be important coming into this Dragon, though? You have those ultimates coming back up for SK Prime. Maybe they can find themselves a pick around the next Dragon spawn.
Still no flash on Bao, still no flash on Parus, and those are very key ultimates. You can see Bao just kind of waiting for his Featherstorm to be up and available before he really gets any kind of aggression. But Kraken Slayer now finished for Lurox, a Immortal Shield Bow, excuse me, for Keduii. So he's got the extra little bit of survivability, and it's just going to be the Everfrost Blitzcrank that we've been seeing so much of recently, because again, if you get hooked up, silenced, and then CC'd again, it's like nearly 3 seconds of no movement.
You're literally going to be Ahri Everfrost, Charm, Hook, Blitzcrank knockup into Blitzcrank Everfrost as well.
You don't get to play the game, that's what I'm hearing.
And that's why I think Istanbul Wildcats shouldn't be trying to play the game on this bot side. This is where SKP are strongest, and also you got Rift Out on the top side.
Up to... Doesn't really have a place to go. Does getting nice petrifying gaze, but the charm is too decent, and that's going to be Prime going in and saying, look at me.
On that bot side.
First of all, Prime is the carry. I want you to make that very clear. 3-1 and 5 right now on the Blitzcrank, and he is having a fantastic game on this Blitzcrank.
You're saying he's optimal Prime?
Absolutely, he's Optimus Prime. he is taking control of the Autobots and taking down the Decepticons. That being said, Keduii not having a great time in the 3v1, does get his Immortal Shield Bow pop as the rest of his team finally come in, but it's going to be hard for them to kind of defend this. Say that though, just enough presence to make sure everyone backs away.
But Kedoui's mistake there leads in towards Istanbul Wildcats now getting the Rift Herald. Keduii needs to reset, doesn't have that Immortal Shield Bow as he said, and even with Genax, he's resetting on the top side, so one quick pick off the pressure that Bao has in mid has now given that window to Istanbul Wildcats, and we'll have to see if Bao can continue to do this. If he can find those moments where he can go for the 1v1 against the Kalista, maybe he can get his opportunity to find those picks and continue to carry the game.
I want the record to show it's a crying shame that we didn't get to have Prime versus Starscreen from Foot as well, who are also in the tournament. Just want to throw that one out there. We're going to see that dying scream of the Herald as Elramir takes that objective, at least something. The hook lands.
Yeah, they do get the Blitzcrank rocket grab, and they're going to just pile everybody onto Elramir. And Istanbul Wildcats, they're not sure if they want to go in for this fight or not. Now they've kind of overcommitted, but not really able to get anything else out of it. So now you're just kind of left, they're just holding themselves in this position, kind of going, what are we doing? Where are we going?
That was a really dangerous play from Elramir. When you're on red side, very hard to disengage from that Baron pit, or in this case, the Herald pit. The Baron's not spawned just yet. And you've also given an extra marker for Lurox. That's Mark 4. That's the extra range increase. We've already talked about how, you know, the carries of the Wildcats, they're not the longest range. Yeah, they do have the Xayah feathers, which will kind of artificially extend that range. But if Lurox gets too far ahead of the game, they're going to have an absolute whale of a time.
And it's the fact that Febi gets to get this bot tower as well. Now they're looking mid. What can Prime do?
He's got an Everfrost, so that means he's going to be able to slow everybody up. It's exactly what he wants to do. Doesn't land the hook there onto Bao. Parus backs himself away with a bit of Spider-Manning, but again, you're getting a very key ultimate. That's a long cooldown, even here, like just before level 11.
Yeah, I mean, at least at the moment, though, there's not really many opportunities for them to try and punish. Apart from, like, looking for a pick like that, there's no Dragon that's going to be up. Like, there's Barons up in a minute's time, but you're not going to rush that 20 minutes, and Bao's ultimately back up at that stage. So, at least it's a decent time in the grand scheme of things for Bao to lose it, but we'll have to see if you can find that moment again for SK Prime to continue to put this pressure down. And the fact as well, if you start to get more control like this for SK Prime, it becomes very difficult for Destroy to really get any sort of control on the side lane, because he just doesn't have the map to work with.
I was just going to say, I'm very happy, but also just kind of like, you know, surprised that we haven't even seen anything from topside, because the Sion's doing his job. He is mitigating the Fiora. Thank you, observers. But I mean, there's nothing to talk about. Yeah, but there is nothing to talk about, because the Fiora pushes in the wave, the Sion tanks up this damage, the Sion takes the wave with his Sunfire and his Bomby Cinders, and then he backs away.
No, we're going to see it, because they're moving up topside. You lied. Here's action.
Well, yeah. You know what? You got me on that one. There's nothing else to really be done. But yeah, Destroy, he can't really stay here. He has to back away.
It would add insult to injury if you just had them stick around for the turret and nothing actually happened with the top laners themselves. You see that the mark was actually on the Krugs just after that point. Destroy trying to defend the turret. We'll be able to do so with the riposte up. I think they're safe.
Yeah, with Keduii resetting as well, they just don't have the numbers on the map. You can even see the Febi had moved to mid lane to try and cover the push, so they decide to back away. Keduii now, I actually don't think he should be the one going bot. I think Febi should definitely be the one that's trying to move in towards this bot side, because yes, you've got Dragon in a minute, but I think having Keduii set up as your four-man group in the mid lane to actually help you out, and then using Febi as this counterweight on the bot side to push in and then move for the potential flank is going to be a lot more important.
So now we're seeing a kind of shift around the map. We saw the quick shift up towards top side, quick shift down towards bot side as this dragon spawns in just an extra 45 seconds is going to be the Chemtech Rift. Not necessarily the best thing ever, but actually, when you're in a Kindred ult and everyone's below half HP and stuck around there, actually forced to stick around that point, can actually have very good value, particularly with that champion in the game. As you're saying, Dr. FEBIVEN is going to be able to push in this lane for free. Of course, with that Ahri being able to push in, it stops the Wildcats being able to defend that dragon as easily.
I think the big question, though, is going to be a case of does GenX TP in, or is it a case of we're going to see the 4v4? Because if you do, Destroy will get the top lane tower, and at least that's some presence on the map, and maybe he can start to threaten a bit more. But I think SK Prime solidifying just a big advantage. It's a 3k gold lead. You are still very squishy with this four-man group, so having the Sion there could be so important for this fight.
It's a big moment here. The side of SK Prime, you've got the Guinzu's Rage Blade, and they're just playing keep away. Keduii is on vision, so they know that he is not on the dragon for the moment, but doesn't need to be as he's kind of moving. Parus is isolated, and Parus is going to lose his flash almost certainly, but oh, he gets caught up right at the end, and he's going to be able to trump it down. It's going to be the Sion picking this one up, you would imagine, with a little bit of a decimating smash, and now Parus losing himself there is just so huge, and he had to drop the Rift Herald as well, because, again, they have no pressure in any of the lanes.
And you're winning on both sides of the map. Keduii gets to push in mid. You can have GenX catch that wave in top side and the Rift Herald and not have to worry about it too much. Destroy trying to change that by just all-inning, it looks like, onto GenX, I imagine, as he just comes into lane if GenX starts to move up, but we'll actually get that charge now on the top side because of it.
Yep, Destroy very much recognizing, look, everything's kind of going against us right now. We need one thing to go for us, and if it means we just get a top tower, it means we get a top tower, but isn't going to confirm it just yet. See if the minions can bring that one off. No, they won't be able to confirm that one again. So, again, it's almost for the side of Istanbul Wildcats. They're not quite getting the things they need, and it means it's delaying them a little bit more. Almost isn't enough, though, particularly against a pick comp. Imagine just like playing against this team. Actually, observers, do you mind if we switch over to Wildcats Vision? Because you're playing against the Blitzcrank, you're playing against the Ahri. I really want to see what they can see on the Rift right now. Again, you don't know where the Blitzcrank is. You don't see where the Ahri is. You're working with some implied information when they show up in lanes, but it's very dangerous even to just walk around this part of the map.
You can see that's why they're taking this so slowly. They are using some of the Maokai saplings to slowly regain vision before they fully commit, but again, it's so scary. Nothing there, and there they go. Yeah, and jumping on the Parus, this will be another stack as well. We'll put Lurox onto 6, I should say. There's the Ignite coming out as well. They didn't even have to use anything, and this is just so easy now for SK Prime because they're not only ahead, but they have all the information. But this now feels like, again, a second time Istanbul Wildcats have taken a risk in draft. We saw it in game 1. Now we're seeing it by giving Keduii his favorite champion. Febi getting his hands on the Ahri again. And even GenX just going back to the side and just like plastering over that top lane matchup and going, hey, look, I don't mind, I'll just play Mega Tank. Now they're starting up the Baron with Destroy on the opposite side of the map. Yeah, they're going to put the TP in, but this is Destroy trying to make sure he can have a fight. You don't really want a team fighting Fiora as such. FEBIVEN, though, in a little bit of trouble, does get himself over the wall. You'll have the Ren to secure this with the Smite, and it's just as easy as that. Now they can turn back on the Elramir. FEBIVEN trying to go in. The Petrifying Gauge catches him out, so he will die. The Baron is secured, but can you kill off anybody else? That ultimate from the Kindred wasn't the greatest, of being totally honest. It meant they didn't really get anything. Bow takes the shutdown as he gets the feathers to come back to him after the flash. You still get 3 people out, and Baron going over to the side of SK Prime. Yeah, some miscommunication from SK Prime. You can see that Lurox maybe tried to use that Kindred ult to save FEBIVEN, doesn't manage to do so, and actually makes the fight a lot more difficult, because then the Wildcats can take a respite in that 1 point, keep themselves alive. FEBIVEN caught out on the side, caught between both solo laners, means that he goes down very early, but I think just the miscommunication about maybe we should just let them die, and it ends up leading to a couple of deaths. And it actually just ends up benefiting Istanbul Wildcats entirely. The fact that Lurox dropped that so early, as everyone tries to jump onto Kofte, means that no one's actually getting value from the Kindred ult, apart from Bao. Really good decision-making from Bao. Moves into the ultimate and goes, right, I can play hyper-aggressive now because I've got this zone of vulnerability, and then the second it pops, he hops up into the ultimate so he can't be caught, and just uses that so well.
So, you know, we are going to see that Baron go down. Still going to be in terms of macro and the ability to take this, take towers on the sidelines. It's going to work out for SK Prime. But I think we are starting to see some glimpses amongst the darkness for the Wildcats from Bao. Bao has, even in quite difficult games, managed to position well, get out good damage.
It does feel like darkest before the storm here, though. SK Prime now having a ton of control on this top side. They're the ones that have the Baron. They're going to very quickly start to take down these outer towers, pushing back the Istanbul Wildcats. And your true tanks are nowhere to be found in Istanbul Wildcats. You have a 0-4 Maokai, you have a 0-5 on this Nautilus in the bot lane. Like, nobody here is actually particularly tanky for Istanbul Wildcats, so if SK Prime find anyone on these picks, they're so easy for them to finish off anyone there.
That's Mark 7 for Lurox. That is the second range increase. Lurox is so ready to fire from basically half a screen away at that point. If we get to the point where we get to 10 marks, then we start bringing down like the angelic music as the end times have come. But Lurox,
it's like Kale level 16. It's just like, and the game shall end by my hand.
Yeah, you very rarely see like 7 marks, particularly for relevant fights in the game. Flash forward.
Getting the flash over the wall, but that's going to kind of start him up. Parus trying to see if he can make a fight happen here, but he doesn't want it. Lurox picks up that kill. You've gotten the ultimate there from the Maokai, and here comes the train. Sion jumps into the fight. Now they're going to jump over the wall. Destroy does get himself the parry, but now he doesn't have any availability on that. Got to be careful. Bao is massive. I've got to make that absolutely clear. But with 25 seconds until this next dragon spawns, that's going to be Chemdrake's soul. Not the most ideal. They changed their target straight away. They're going to try and jump onto Bao now, but he's already been cocked out of his ultimate because he didn't know when it was going to come at him. Now the Blitzcrank can reset, look for another hook. They haven't been able to go for anyone after this fight, but all the health bars are low, and they're going to try and reset.
Elramir.
Good charm going in. Can they get the last bit of damage? And the carry that is Prime picks up another scalp.
And they pick up the soul as well. SK Prime play that so well. Patient in how they use their spells. Patient in waiting for GenX to show up. And Istanbul Wildcats are picked apart again.
Oh, you just can't leave this one to be. And GenX gets himself a kill. That's 3-0-1 for the Sion, and now they've just got the run of the map.
SK Prime transform and roll out. Prime is leading this team from the support role in a way that we rarely get to see, but particularly with the combos of the rest of his team, SK Prime, they have those go buttons, they have the pick potential, and they've got a heck of a Deadeye on their support.
Prime has been absolutely incredible for this squad. The plays on the Blitzcrank, the roams that he's had, even in their previous semi-final as well against Mako Esports, it was absolutely incredible. And for SK Prime, Prime is stepping up once more to be an absolute thrill seeker in this game.
They get absolutely everything off of that. Like, they get all the turrets, they get themselves all the setups. This is just really, really good now to accelerate this mid-game Kalista.
And the combos are working really well from SK Prime. And it's also, again, a continuation of SK Prime just being really good at snowballing their leads. We saw that one blip in this early game after they got their lead and they lost that kind of first play of the game towards that bot side. But it has felt that they've done a really good job in terms of securing the vision control, which is so important to so many champions on their roster, and playing through it.
And now you're back as Istanbul Wildcats. What can you do? Yes, this eye is absolutely huge. 3 items now completed for Bao. But every single fight, it feels like once more he's kind of been left out to put himself into these difficult positions to try and carry, but always at threat from the Blitzcrank, from Febi. I mean, even from Lurox as well now at how strong this guy is.
And we're even seeing, you see GenX, huge XP. He's also built up the locket. So he's just saying, look, it actually doesn't matter if I live or die. I'm just going to sit here, put an extra shield
the redemption.
And the redemption. He's saying, like, look, I already have God knows how many W stacks at this point. He's going to walk up and just say, well, I'm just going to clear waves. As soon as it comes to the 5v5s, I just need to make sure that my teammates survive.
He's elite in his stacks. 37 as you say that. Although he did just kill some creeps as he came through. But styling on styling with this. And it looks like at the moment, I mean, it's a great call from GenX. Realistically, the only way you lose this game is if there is some sort of crazy pick where a fight goes wrong, Keduii's out of position, and having the shield, the redemption, even the ultimate from Lurox as well. Like, there's so many opportunities to use these items with the ultimate from the Kindred to get big value.
And throw that on top of the Chemtech Soul as well. As soon as you drop below that half HP, extra value from those shields if they use it at that point. It's just going to be so damn hard to kill off SK Prime members. Wildcats, they are relying on an absolute miracle team fight where Kofte and Bao find themselves some minute space to play out these team fights. It's going to be very difficult to do so, though.
Oh, we see a hook. Oh, the Ballista! The Ballista is great, but but does it lead to anything else? They get the charm on the Kofte. They will not get the Kindred ultimate to save the Ahri. It was all for show. It was all for naught because Bao is too big and Bao wants to end this game. They get 2 kills. SK Prime, they were feeling themselves just a little too much.
The Baron for Istanbul Wildcats off of that Parus. May end up giving his life, but the big old blast cone will knock him out of there. That was such a massive overextension from Febi and SK Prime, and Istanbul Wildcats bounce back.
I don't think this is done. You have frontline, you have Lurox. Lurox is still strong. They might be able to catch someone on the retreat.
They got flash on Lurox as well. They're going to be able to pick people off, but they will not get the Baron. That's going to be the support of the Istanbul Wildcats taken out, but can they get anything else off of it? Istanbul looking to try and get him. The flash is not good enough, and you can see Gen X trying to see how long he can stay alive, but he will finally use his passive, and this entire game's momentum is shifting right back for Istanbul.
Especially when you look at the fact that Destroy, he now has that Baron buff. He has the opportunity to play through lanes, and it was such a sick hook onto Kofte. But look how spread out SK Prime are. You have nobody who's there to really follow up on the damage. You've now overextended. Febi puts himself in the middle of 4 other people to try and make that play. And Lurox is like, sorry, I can't get over the wall. I cannot help you here. And Bao is able to carry alongside Destroy.
Yeah, and for all, we were talking about, hey, really good itemization from the Sion to buy extra time for his team. You can't do that if they get burst out before you are there and the pick happens too quickly. There is no Zhonya's on this Ahri. If you're playing very, very aggressively, you can tank up maybe the Maokai at that point. Maybe you can tank up a bit of the miasma, get us punished for it.
I mean, the big thing is that, like, look, it's very exciting, it's very fun seeing the Ballista combination, but you got the flash and the petrifying gaze. You could have just left it and said, cool, you can't fight us at this Baron. We'll bring everybody in, we'll get ourselves set up properly, and then we'll take the fight. But they got a little bit too ahead of themselves. They put themselves in a bad position, and now with Baron, Istanbul Wildcats are pushing on the door.
And it's not only the fact they have Baron, Elder Dragon in a minute.
Yes.
You now have control of the map. You're the ones who can get the vision control on bot side as long as Prime doesn't find these quick picks.
I mean, Elramir is pretty damn tanky, and I mean, this Ballista combination, we're getting to the point where it doesn't mean that much. 4 items now on top of the Xayah. The Istanbul Wildcats, they're turning the gears. They're feeling it a bit more for themselves.
And SK Prime don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. 3 members top as Prime is going for the hook in mid. Keduii's trying to pull him out of the safety. It feels like Istanbul Wildcats are slowly but surely taking over everything, and SK Prime are kind of scratching their heads going, what the hell are we supposed to do?
And I think you can really see that with that last kind of attempt at the Ballista under that turret, try and play around that Everfrost, because that's your combo, and if that's not working, you need to go to plan B. Your plan B can't really involve the Ahri because you've gone for the setup build. Again, all around Prime, who's trying to carry from that support. What happens when plan A fails? SK Prime, they're searching for answers now.
But they keep trying to shadow Febi into the top lane. Febi hasn't mana, now has to reset, and Dragon's in 15 seconds.
Gen X doesn't have TP.
They are nowhere near this. Keduii hits level 16, not really going to mean a huge amount in this, but now they have to TP in. They're going to have to try and brute force their way through mid lane to answer, and again, they don't have a tank here. Gen X is in top side, and you've got Elramir with a Maokai.
You're preying on a hook right now from Prime. You're looking to see if you can maybe make something happen, some kind of miracle, but they will shred this Elder Dragon so damn quickly with the Cassiopeia and the Xayah. You gotta go now. You cannot let this game go away from you. They're gonna see them go into the fight, but they're not gonna be able to get away from it. That's gonna be Istanbul Wildcats securing it. The Fiora is able to take out that fight on the top side, and it looks like SK Prime have bitten off more than they can chew. Bao bided his time, and Bao picks up everything. Istanbul Wildcats will be going to match point.
Game 1, maybe just a blip on the radar for the rampant TCL team. They're made to work for it, but if they close this out, it is a very sought victory on a red side game.
SK Prime will be very let down with this one, though. The game was theirs. One mistake, and Istanbul Wildcats bring it back. Elder Dragon is there, and they want to end it all.
You can't fight against the Elder Dragon. It's just too damn powerful, but you got to go for something. The final fight as they look to try and defend their Nexus turret. They're going to try and see if they can take out Bao, but you can see the wings of the Elder Dragon just too damn strong. Kofte moving himself back and trying to move back into this fight. There's no more wave. They're trying to tank this one up. Destroy will go down. Bao, not the one to be get caught out, and everyone backs away, but the base is in tatters.
Those are some key resets from FEBIVEN, and the remaining surviving members of the Wildcats do not feel bold enough to stay in the base. They realize there's another ult charge, another flash to be used from FEBIVEN, and they managed to buy themselves to SK Prime just a slim lifeline in this game.
I cannot believe that they managed to hold this. Again, no Sion, no front line, no way for Lurox to get in the pit. And the second you pick up that Elder Dragon, they turn on to Keduii, who way over positioned, like tried to go for blue buff, ends up coming in a complete wrong angle to everyone. And then Istanbul Wildcats with Bow step up massively, now pushing in. I am shocked that they managed to hold this. I thought you just have Destroy come across, they move as one unit, and just make sure that you can't really do anything here. But without the Baron buff left, somehow GenX and Febi managed to clear out this wave.
A lot of it's actually down to a little bit of that Chemtech Dragon helps them buy just those extra few seconds. Most of the time, actually, they're not stood beneath that point, but
great knock-up there by
just
Prime.
able to kite it out. Great knock-up as well. Means that it's just enough to clear that wave.
Yeah, it was actually GenX. Gives his life, but manages to get rid of the wave. Massive play from GenX to actually get that wave cleared out, because if that survived, that would have been the end of the game. And now SK Prime, they still have a little bit more time left before this Elder Dragon burns out. 10 seconds, but they're in front of their base. They should be fine.
A little bit of a fog of war play. Here we go. They're going to look for it. 2 seconds till the Elder Dragon is gone. They're going to try and jump on the Kofte and burn him out, but it's Elramir who gets it. Tank this one up. The Fiora's not here, and you've had to pop the Kindred ultimate to keep the Sion alive. They're going to be able to pushing these super minions, and the Sion has gone down. They haven't been able to kill anybody here. You looked for a 5v4 and you got nothing.
You have the Radiant Virtue on the Maokai, so when he's in... Oh, wait, the hook! What's a Kofte?
They're going to have to look for this one here. They have to go defend the base because the Fiora's going to end the game.
Keduii's grounded.
Keduii's grounded. He can't look for this one here. The feathers will fly. They're going to see Prime looking in to try and defend his team, but he just can't do it. The Fiora looking to end it all before the rest of the team pushes in. And it is going to be the Istanbul Wildcats going within one match point. As I say that, you can see there's a decent damage from Lurox. He's going in. It's so close. Another base defense. Can they make it happen? They need the Kalista.
No way.
They haven't got the damage. There's no way. And they've saved it. Keduii with the Quadra kill!
Save the game, not once, but twice. A teleported to
They have to end.
But they have to end now. It is so unlikely that they can come back so many times.
They can't. There's creeps everywhere. There's creeps under the base. The creeps are on the... Someone needs to go back. Keduii's not paying attention. He's on the super minions that are there, but the regular minions, they're pushing into the base. Can Keduii try and hold off? Does have the Ruin's Hurricane, which can help. GenX is here, so they won't go for the end. They will turn back. Very close call from SK Prime, but their base is in shatters. Every inhibitor is down. Double minions are going to be moving into the base. And you have TPs on Kofte, on Destroy, and a handful of hits that are there.
You've got Hullbreaker as well. You have teleports, you have Hullbreakers, and there's basically
TPs.
0 HP left on the Nexus. They're leaving their base. They don't know.
They don't know just yet. You can see
Prime
Prime knows. Prime knows. So no,
The Sweeper
didn't see it. Oh, Prime. Oh, my sweet summer child. You have no idea. They're going to leave the base, and as soon as they're spotted on any wave, they're going to TP in. That's got to be it.
You can see it there. Prime,
They're pinging.
spotted
They're
inside.
pinging.
The double pings are down. They're waiting for the Ahri to leave as well. They think the base is safe. No, the only person.
There it is! Double TP coming in. They're going to have to try and stop this one here, but they waited just a little bit too long. And that's it. The back door. They only needed the one TP. But what a way to bring us on the match point.
It was feeling a bit inevitable at the end of that when you got nothing left in the base but stall points for Istanbul Wildcats, managing to get both of those wards in place, and the TP comes through to finish off nice and easy.
That's got to be pretty heartbreaking, though, for the Prime League representatives. You know, we talked about how much this series means to both teams. For the TCL, it is a chance to solidify yourself at the top of the ERL hierarchy. For Prime League, it's getting to reclaim part of that because you've spent years now waiting for these kinds of results. Games like that, they stick in your craw all the more.
And I think it's kind of a showcase of some of the issues with SK Prime. Again, the Kindred looks fantastic from the get-go, but disjointed team fights mean that Lurox isn't really in a position to work with Febi. They try to find these picks, but they're not quite working out for them. And that one play at Baron just completely broke this game open.
And this is the thing, that one play at Baron that they went for, they overcommitted for, and it meant that all of a sudden you could see the dominoes just falling, the snowball getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I gotta give massive props to Bao because he never panicked, he never gave himself a position to kind of screw himself or his team over, because he just said, no, it's fine, I'm scaling, I've got the Xayah, I can keep myself alive. Sure, it wasn't the most perfect game coming out from Istanbul Wildcats, but they never really panicked.
I think as well, it was just the way that they tried to play so heavily around these Kindred ultimates, but they never really gave themselves the opportunity to set up. It's either a case of look for the pick 30 seconds before the dragon spawns, not 10 seconds after it spawned, right? And I think that's where the big issue started to really come through.
Yeah, it really was. Well, SK Prime are going to be kicking themselves, but Istanbul are very happy. They will go into the break with a 2-1 advantage, and we'll see if they can end it in 4. We'll see after this.